Hello everybody, welcome to the I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dan. As ever, I am the IT Geek. Welcome back to another episode within the AZ700 Designing and Implementing Microsoft Azure Network Solutions series that I'm doing. And I'm obviously working with a good friend of mine, Mohammed Sajid, who you will know by now. We are starting to get deep into Module 2 now. And if you remember last episode, we sort of sort of topic we discussed was sort of those private IP addressing and public IP addressing, and now we're actually going to move on to network, DNS design, sort of the name resolution area. So again, another two-part topic, and I'll be doing the theory as normal, and followed by Saj, who's got a really interesting demo for us. So let's get started. So yeah, as I mentioned, we are deep into Module 2 now, and that is designing and implementing core network infrastructure. And today is going to be part 1 of designing and implementing name resolution, so DNS. So first of all, we're going to talk about designing name resolution inside of VNet. We'll talk about configuring DNS settings inside of VNet. And look at designing public DNS zones. That'll be followed by a demo from Mohammed Sajid around configuring DNS on a VNet. So let's start to talk about designing name resolution inside of VNet, first of all, the virtual network. So there are 4 methods for resolving domain names. So when resources deployed on a virtual network need to resolve domain names to an internal IP address, they can use one of these 4 methods. First of all, we've got Azure DNS private zones. And we are going to talk about more of those in detail. We've got Azure provided name resolution. We then have name resolution that uses your own DNS server, which might forward queries to the Azure provided DNS server. And then we have the Azure DNS private resolver. So let's talk about Azure provided name resolution to start with, okay? So Azure provided name resolution provides only basic authoritative DNS capabilities. If you use this option, the DNS zone names and records will be automatically managed by Azure, and you won't be able to control that sort of DNS zone names or even the life cycle of a DNS record. So very sort of hands-off approach, Microsoft's responsibility sort of thing. Azure provided name resolution includes some of the following features. High availability, so you don't need to create and manage clusters of your own DNS servers. You can use the service in conjunction with your own DNS servers to resolve both on-premises and Azure host names. And you can also use name resolution between VMs and role instances within the same cloud service without the need for a fully qualified domain name, or FQDN. Let's talk about the other method, the second method, which is using your own DNS server. So your name resolution needs might go beyond the features of the provided by Azure. So for example, you might need to use Microsoft Windows Server AD to resolve DNS names between virtual networks. DNS servers within a virtual network can forward DNS queries to the recursive resolvers in Azure. So this enables you to resolve host names within the virtual network. An example of this, a domain controller running in Azure can respond to DNS queries for its domains and forward all those queries to Azure. Forwarding those queries always allows VMs to see both your on-premises resources and Azure provided host names as well. Access to the recursive resolvers in Azure is provided via the virtual IP. So when you go to your sort of DNS settings in your VNet, you might see 168.168.129.16 IP address. That's the Azure provided one. And DNS forwarding is also enables DNS resolution between virtual networks and allows your on-premises machines to resolve Azure provided host names as well. So the third option I want to talk about is Azure Private Resolver. So Azure DNS Private Resolver requires an Azure virtual network. When you create an Azure DNS Private Resolver inside of VNet, one or more inbound endpoints are established that can be used as the destination for DNS queries. The resolver's outbound endpoint processes DNS queries based on a DNS forwarding rule set that you as the user need to configure. Finally, DNS queries that are initiated in networks limited to a rule set can be sent to other DNS servers as well. Let's talk about public DNS zones now. So we've got two types. We've got public and private, remember. So a DNS zone is a data resource that contains DNS records for a domain name. And you can use Azure DNS to host a DNS zone and manage those DNS records for a domain in Azure. And it also provides DNS name servers to answer DNS queries from the internet. I'm saying DNS a lot. We're talking about it, so obviously I'm going to be. You can configure Azure DNS to resolve host names in your public domain. Let's give you an example. If you purchase the I Am IT Geek domain name, please don't, it's mine, from a domain registrar, you can configure Azure DNS to host that, and then that domain, and resolve to the IP address of your web server. So you configure that as your DNS to host domain and resolve imitgeek.com to public IP essentially. So I'm going to hand over to my good friend Mohammed Sajid, who's going to do a demo on configuring a DNS in VNet. So thank you, Mohammed and Sajid, and over to you.
Thank you, Shabazz. So we're just going to do a quick demo on defining DNS on your virtual networks. So again, we've created virtual networks in our previous demos. So we're going to just select a VNet 04, which we created earlier. And if you look on the settings, you have DNS servers. And if you select DNS servers, you will see by default it uses Azure provided DNS. But you can configure custom DNS. Select the custom radio button and define your DNS servers by IP address. You can have, if your environment is connected to your on-premises environment, you've got DNS servers there, or you defined your own DNS servers or created your own DNS servers in Azure, you can define them all here. For the demo, we'll just use some public DNS servers, 8.8.8.8. And as you notice, you can have one or more. So we'll define a secondary one for this demo. Once you've defined the IP addresses of your custom DNS servers and you're good to go, select Save. Saving virtual networks, save takes a few moments, it might take a little longer to propagate, but once it's done, it's done. Thank you for watching. Back to you, Shabazz.
Thanks, Saj. Another great demo. And again, please do follow. It's very important to do your labs when you're preparing for the exam, and this exam's no different. Again, networking's very hands-on anyway, so do follow the labs that Saj is doing. You can follow them using the link to the GitHub repository that we put in the description. So yeah, another great episode. We're kind of the first part of the DNS topic, so we'll have another episode on this next. So thank you again for watching. You can, any questions, drop us a comment, drop us a tweet. You can see mine and Saj's socials, LinkedIn and Twitter on the description. And please do like and comment on the videos, and I really appreciate everyone's support. And if you've not subscribed, why not? I'm trying to do all this content and to help people, obviously. So if you feel like you're helped by it, by all means, please do subscribe. We've got loads of great content coming up. I'm not going to give away too much because I want to focus on this one right now, but I've got some really good content coming about different topics around Microsoft Azure, so please do stay tuned. And up until next time, thank you and goodbye.